Good afternoon, Grow with Google Scholars. I am so sorry for the delay this afternoon, but thank you for sticking it out with us. Somehow there's always technical difficulties. We are here today with Jennifer and Tracy from AT&T to talk about the AT&T Technology Development Internship Program. This is an incredible opportunity for our Grow with Google Scholars, and we wanted to take the next hour to answer your questions about the program. So I am just going to give you a quick overview of how this webinar is going to go. Over the next hour, we're going to talk to Jennifer and Tracy about the program. I have a list of questions that I'll be asking them, so it's going to be a Q&A format. And then once we've answered the pre-selected questions, we will take live questions with the remaining time. So now I'll go ahead and pass the mic over to Jennifer and Tracy so they can introduce themselves. And I will start with you, Jennifer.
Thank you, Kelsey. Appreciate it. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Super excited, but of course it would not be a webinar if we didn't have technical difficulties. So thanks for hanging in there with us. We're going to make it worth your while for sure. I'm very excited. Like Kelsey had mentioned, my name is Jennifer Langston. I am the lead college recruiting manager for the technology development internship. Obviously, that's why you're here today. Been with AT&T for 20 years, loving every second of it, and just really excited to be able to talk to you further about this fantastic opportunity that we have for you today.
Hi, and I'm Tracy Haber. I am a program manager with the Technology Development Program here at AT&T. And throughout today, you'll learn a little bit more about what the Technology Development Program is. But I have been in this role since 2013, so 5 years now. I've been affiliated with the program since 2005 in one way or another, and I have been with AT&T for the last 22 years. So I look forward to talking more about the program and what we have to offer for you over the course of the next hour.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for spending this hour with us and answering our questions. We really appreciate it. So I'm going to just start and jump right in. Our first question, this is really just starting with the basics, is can you give us an overview of the TDP internship?
Sure. So TDP, or it stands for Technology Development Program. AT&T is a huge fan of acronyms, as you can tell by the name of our company. But that is a career development program, and it is the hiring arm of AT&T's technology and operations organization. So TDP provides technology skills for both hardware and software and the jobs that enable the delivery of hardware and software. We operate in 8 different locations around the country. So we have offices in Atlanta, Georgia, Middletown, New Jersey, Chicago, Illinois, St. Louis, Dallas, Bothell, Washington, which is Seattle area, San Ramon, California, and El Segundo, California, which is right there by LAX airport. Our primary source of full-time jobs is from our internships. So TDP interns work on assignments that are selected for them based on their skills, based on the goals that are relayed in their interview. So if a TDP intern is successful, specifically a nanodegree intern is successful in a 10 to 12 week internship, then those nanodegree interns are offered the opportunity to convert to a full-time position. So we have payroll restrictions that mean that has to happen on the 1st or the 16th of the month. So if you're successful in that 10 to 12 weeks, then we look for that next available opportunity to convert to full-time.
That's perfect. Thank you, Tracy. And I know that we have a little bit of history, Udacity and AT&T. Can you share how long AT&T has been working with Udacity students? And have you had Udacity interns in the past? If so, how many?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, wow, I think I've forgotten exactly how many. I might have to have Jen help me with that question. But so we first began working with Udacity in 2014. During that time frame, we were working to develop the curriculum for a couple of the programs that are being offered by Udacity. But we didn't start hiring Udacity graduates until 2015. So the summer of 2015 was our first trial run, and we've learned over the years. Based on our learnings, we have had expansions every year, and that's been both in the number of grads that we hire and in the programs that we accept for employment, as well as the number of locations where we have hired Udacity nanodegree interns. So the reason that we've had that expansion is because we have a very close partnership between AT&T Udacity, and that's because Udacity really seeks kind of a constant state of improvement based on both your feedback and the feedback of partner corporations like AT&T. So it's been really good to see that growth over the years.
That's great. Yeah. It sounds like it's been a really fruitful partnership for both students and for AT&T.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I think I might have cut you off, Jen.
Oh yeah, no, I couldn't agree more with Tracy. It is true. Year after year, we bring in more and more Udacity hires. We've had a really good record of, as Tracy mentioned, having our interns convert over to full-time permanent employee status. And we're just excited. There's a lot more transformation going on in terms of opening up to more nano degrees. When we first started this, this partnership, we only had a small amount of nano degrees that we considered. Now we have so much more, and I'm sure that will just continue to grow.
That's great. And speaking of nano degrees, our students in the Grow with Google program that are attending this webinar today are in the Android developer, front end, and mobile web nano degree programs and are eligible to apply for the internship. But we would love to know a little bit more about what the technical skills are that AT&T is looking for in their potential candidates.
Sure. So as you can imagine, because of the fact that we serve such a huge range of needs skill-wise within AT&T, we're serving an organization that is, roughly half the 270,000 employees that work for AT&T are in this part of the company. And so every technical skill that exists in that subset of employees is needed here, but most commonly from this group of people, we're looking for Python, Java variations, database languages like SQL or Mongo, and we like to see the ability to understand network or the ability to learn that on the job.
That's great. And so we covered the technical skills. Are there any characteristics or soft skills you're looking for in a successful intern?
Yeah. So one of the things that we do through our interviewing process is we ask questions that drive to those soft skills and characteristics. And I would say probably the most important one above all else is integrity. And beyond that, flexibility. We're looking for people that expect to be lifelong learners, which that's one of the major reasons why we love Udacity nano degree grads, is because you guys get it, right? That this is the group of people that understand that you need to continue to learn throughout your life, and you have gone back to school or sought out this type of education and skills because you understand that's a critical thing. So we also look for a passion for technology. I love hobbyist coders. So, my favorite kind of person who's somebody who's like, I hate to get out of bed and make coffee in the morning. So I set up an Arduino board and I text it to start my coffee maker. Like, tell me that in an interview. I love to hear that kind of thing. And then we love to see people that dream of making everything they touch better. So these are the leaders, not just club presidents, but people that have like a see a need, fill a need mentality. And we are interested in people that have a long-term vision of a career at AT&T.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, Tracy. And I know this probably goes without saying, but we're definitely looking for folks that have that collaborative type of spirit. Truly just a team player. And I realize that that's kind of like a key word of the, the year, but the fact is that is really what our culture is about. It's about working with one another and collaborating and just synergizing and all that great stuff. We truly live by that. We don't just talk the talk, we walk the walk in those terms.
I think that's a great transition into my next question, which is why AT&T and why this program? What's the value for this for our students?
Okay. So from my perspective, I think TDP has a whole lot to offer somebody who's just entering the technology workforce. In many companies, you come in alone, you're kind of left to fend for yourself. In TDP, we bring in groups of people that are all in a similar career step. So you are joining with a like-minded group of people, and you're not having to figure it all out on your own. We have supervisors that only supervise TDPs, so they're very familiar with how to help you figure out the culture, how to get acclimated, how to very quickly contribute. TDP is kind of purpose-built to remove the impediments that exist in traditional, onesie, twosie types of hiring. So it's giving you the visibility into the opportunities that we have and helping you sort of figure out how to navigate the waters for the first 18 to 24 months of your career before you then kind of launch out on your own. I think the other nice thing about that is that you will get at least a couple of assignments in a couple different areas of the business, and that is helpful in really breaking down. AT&T is a very large company, so having that opportunity helps you break it down into manageable pieces. So you get to see different parts of the business. You get to build networks that you'll rely upon for years and years. It's crazy how this huge company becomes very familial. And then as a result of that, we can compete on par with smaller firms in terms of flexibility and individuals having the opportunity to drive technology in their own way.
Yeah, it sounds like this is a great transition opportunity for students into the workforce. It sounds like there's a lot of support through this program. I know you've mentioned training. What kind of training and development will participants receive through this internship?
Yep. So I think first off, the number one way that people are trained is the assignment that they're placed on. So their primary job on a day-to-day basis. They aren't easy. However, we are getting better and better about making sure that it's challenging, but it's something that is doable, right? We want you to succeed. So we want you to be challenged, but we want you to succeed. So in terms of training, we are getting more and more customized. Back earlier in my career with the company, we had lists of training to complete each year, and a lot of it was web-based and perhaps not so interesting. And what we found is that really resulted in people clicking through it as opposed to really digesting what we wanted them to learn. So instead of saying, here's your list of training courses, we started saying, these are the competencies that we want you to have by the time you complete the program. And you can learn those at your own pace the way you learn best. We'll give you suggestions of where you can go to get those, but we're not going to prescribe things for you. So they have the opportunity to learn the competencies in the best way they learn. And then we also have that's the mandatory list. We also have some technical competencies that are choose to work on. So, and again, we have resources to help them with doing that. So bottom line is plenty of training, probably more training than you could ever conceive, available at your fingertips. And really the trick of that is teaching you how to access what you need, because there's such a vast amount of it that it really becomes, how do I start eating the elephant? So, I mentioned before the TDP supervisors, and they are just really critical to the process because they aid the resources in finding what they individually need to get to the next step in their career. So I want different things out of my career than Jen wants out of her career. Our supervisors help us, you can't apply the same cookie cutter, right? Because we have different needs. So I need to match the TDP with the things that they need in their next career step, not necessarily, the thing that the last person or the next person wants. So.
Sorry, I lost the mute button there for a second. And I know you touched on this. The students will be working on projects, but and you said earlier, Jen, that teamwork is very important. How much of participants' time will be spent working on a team versus working on projects individually or independently?
So generally speaking, software engineers probably have a little bit more independent work than most other roles within AT&T, but I would say that generally 5 to 10 hours per week in meetings, and then the rest of their time would be devoted to the other deliverables that are in support of whatever project your team is working on.
And Tracy, the participants do interact not just on a local level, but with the other centers as well, correct?
Yes, they do.
Yeah, so even on a virtual platform.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, much like what we're utilizing today. So we have opportunities for you'll have conference calls and video calls and things of that nature if you're working with somebody who's not in the same location. But we do try as much as possible to pick people into teams that are co-located with them physically.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And in the same vein, what does a typical work week look like on the job for an intern?
Okay. So most teams have a staff meeting for an hour, maybe an hour and a half, just to keep everybody on the same page and share things that are coming up in the future. We usually have at least one town hall or some kind of leadership message to view. And then the rest of the time really depends on your assignment. A small delivery team will probably have a daily stand-up of 15 minutes a day. And then you might have a status call once a week or so, but the bulk of your time is really spent creating your deliverables, your software, kind of grooming your user stories, going to a retrospective, stuff like that. Just managing and maintaining all the things in your purview. And then there's plenty of opportunities to engage with your local teams at monthly events and social functions and things like that. We have something today, for example, called Face the Floor. It's kind of a Shark Tank style technology idea incubation sort of thing. And they had the year-end winner competition today. So there was a group of people on the floor that were pitching their ideas to some executives at AT&T, kind of just a fun way for the team to get together and encourage innovation and, also just hang out and have fun together. So
yeah, we definitely know how to do that. We do that well.
That's so fun. What a cool idea. I love it.
Yep.
What would you imagine would be the most challenging part about the program for a new hire, or maybe what has historically been the most challenging part?
Sure. So from my perspective, I think practical application of skill is always the biggest challenge. So it's pretty easy. I'm going to say pretty easy, like I've been through your coursework before, but it's pretty easy to create something from scratch that doesn't need to work with existing components. However, when you get into a corporate setting and you need to have something that's retrofitting or takes into consideration cybersecurity threats or natural disasters or things like that, like all the things that can kill software or a network, right? It becomes a lot harder in the real world when you have to consider all that stuff. So you've got so many unknowns that you have to consider and code for, because the software that you're writing has to be bulletproof and integrate with the stuff that's already around and things of that nature. So that's the hard part, right? But what I think is really neat about TDP is that all of the other impediments to getting ramped up are really cared for you through the way that the program is managed, because we're bringing you in with a group of like-minded people. We're putting you with supervisors who are familiar with where you're at in your career and what you're going through and what you need to get acclimated. And we're providing you communities of like-minded people. You can't step 2 feet away from your desk without running into somebody who's graduated from the program and will help you, right?
Yeah.
We even, I think this is the neatest thing that we've done in a minute, but We have an internal version of Stack Overflow, so the same thing that you know and love on the outside, we have an AT&T internal version of Stack Overflow, and we leveraged all the questions and approved answers as we fed those to a chatbot. So you can open a little chat window and you can type in your question, and it sorts through all of the stuff in Stack Overflow, finds the appropriate question, the appropriate approved answer, and feeds it right back to you. So literally, I feel like we do a good job at attempting to remove all impediments to success.
That's great. It sounds like community is a big part of AT&T in general, but also a part of this program and a value add for students to have access to such an incredible community. As a part of that, is there a formal mentorship component of the program?
Yes, there is. So there's informal mentoring happening all the time, as you just noticed. And then we also have peer mentoring programs in place. There are some chat rooms where your peers are monitoring to help you, that kind of thing. And then we have formal mentoring that we're really trying to plug you in with the right person. I mentioned before not having a cookie cutter approach and leveraging your TDP supervisor, because they can help you plug in exactly what you need to get to the next step in your career. So we're helping make that happen. Through that, we have formal mentoring that we're setting up for you for your first year. You can elect to re-up in subsequent years, but at least that first year is set for you without you doing anything additional. And then we have mentoring circles throughout the program as well.
That's really great. And for participants, how do you measure or define success during the internship?
So one of the things that we learned from years and years of doing summer internships with traditional college students is that you have expectations of an internship just like we have expectations of you. And the most successful interns are setting their goals at the beginning of the summer. And then we also have midpoint checkpoints to make sure that you're getting the opportunities you need to achieve those goals. And then we also provide goals to you. So what that means is you get some goals that you're told, hey, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And then you're also given the opportunity to relay to your supervisor what your expectations are by saying, I want to be able to achieve A, B, and C. So through that process of setting goals and then checking in with you at a midpoint to make sure you're on track for that, and then also through there's one-on-ones that are scheduled with your supervisor, you are getting that opportunity to make sure that the goals are achievable. So, I mean, meeting expectations on your goals, and that is the quantity of software that you're delivering, the quality of the software you're delivering, and the complexity of the software you're delivering. Those are kind of the three, if I were to roll it all up to the single view of what you're delivering or what you're being asked, it's those three things.
And for students who are successful, is there, I think you mentioned this in the overview of the program, but is there an opportunity to move full-time? And if so, what does that process look like?
So first off, I would say that hiring, we don't really just want interns, we want full-time hires. So the goal is that we are getting a full-time hire out of you coming and appreciating an internship, right? The internship is kind of our opportunity to make sure that you understand the culture and then you know what you're getting into, right? So absolutely, going full-time is not just possible, but that's really where we want to see you. And we have been to date, I would say, pretty darn successful. Roughly 3/4 or more of the folks that we've had coming in to internships wind up converting to full-time. So we assess that at about the 10-week mark, and then we look for the next 1st or 16th of the month to convert you.
So for a student who's interested in applying, what is the timeline for 2019 hiring? If I, let's say I am finishing up school or have another commitment until June. Can I apply in June, or when do interns start? What does the timeline look like for the program?
I think that's a great question. I can take that, Tracy. No time than the present. My firm suggestion is to apply as soon as we are available. We start folks as early as January 28th, and that's just by, simply because we're looking at ramping people up. January can be busy, so our start date, the earliest is January 28th, but we do hire throughout the entire year. So we're looking at, pretty much every Monday. It depends on business needs. It depends on you, the student. But I can also tell you that the latest that we bring folks on is August 5th. It's the first Monday in August. And that's simply because exactly what Tracy's been talking about. We want to be able to ultimately have you successfully convert into a full-time employee. So being that August 5th is our last start date, we want to try and get you into full-time before the end of the year. But essentially, the reason why I said apply as quickly as you can is because we'll have that dialogue with you. We'll talk to you about when you're available, what works best for you. This is a combination of, like I said, business needs, but also your needs, the candidate needs. So we definitely want to be able to accommodate that realistically. But like I said, we have several starts throughout the year. In the past, you might have heard through the grapevine, if you did some research, that we used to only bring in folks in the summer, but that's changed. So it's really good news, Kelsey. We're bringing in folks throughout the entire year, from January to August.
That's great. And so the follow-up question to that. So if, when you are, is it in cohorts? Is it groups of students at a time, or is it just on a rolling basis students would start?
We try to. Oh, go ahead, Tracy.
We try to bring in people together. So we have, on the traditional college student side, we have folks that are coming in at the end of January from December graduations. We have folks that are joining in July from May graduations, and then we have summer interns that are starting in June. So we try as much as possible to hit those dates. However, I respect that once a Udacity graduate is completing their education, they want to immediately start work. And I get it, right? Yeah. You want that paycheck, right? So we do look to bring people in as needed in alternate times. We do try to bring you in together as much as possible, so you're going through that exact same experience with others. However, sometimes it just doesn't work out and you have one person that's starting on a specific date. We found that's okay. Probably not ideal, but it's okay because we have so many people in those locations that have just within the past couple months gone through the same thing you're going through. So we're aligning them with you so that you're having the opportunity to have some friends and some network, folks that have just started just like you did.
Absolutely.
That makes sense. So
yeah, thanks for added context. I appreciate that. That's so true. That really is ultimately our goal.
So I'm a student and I'm sold and I'm ready to apply, and I perhaps make it to the next round and I get to the interview process. What is that interview process like, and how can I best prepare?
Question. I will take it a little bit further from the beginning. Like when you initially apply, obviously my team, myself, will look at your resume, we'll look at your application, all of the details that are provided. And then from there, because this is a software engineer internship, you are invited to take an online technical assessment. And then from the online technical assessment is when we schedule you, the candidate, with a lead college recruiter to go through what's called like a pre-screening. This is really for us to tell you more about what to expect, what our company culture is. We do ask you some questions that are soft skill questions. They're not technical questions just yet. And then from there, if qualified, that's when you move into a formal interview with Tracy's group. which is the hiring managers, the actual managers of the department that are hiring in. And that's when you'll go through a formal interview. Now, as far as preparing, I would like to say that, and this is the honest truth, AT&T, our site, has phenomenal resources. You can go right to att.jobs and literally search like interview tips, resume tips. It'll come up with just a plethora of information. We really have some great resourceful information out there to help you prepare. I would also say, based on my own experience, and I'm sure Tracy can give her tip as well, but for me, I have found that mock interviews are really helpful. Sitting down with a coworker, a friend, a peer, whoever, and literally doing a mock interview. And I've even gone as far as doing interviews, and I know this is silly, guys, but I'm just being transparent. But I've even gone as far as doing interviews like in the mirror, like, you know, just kind of practicing what I'm going to say and the different things that I've experienced. I really like to prepare by thinking of great past scenarios that I have accomplished, just out of box thinking, innovative ideas. I really try to essentially collect my thoughts so they are very organized. So when someone does ask me a question, I can go into, like, you know, my memory and pull, oh, okay, I have this example I can use, or I have that example I can use. And then lastly, I would say, you know, as cliche as this sounds, there's just so many other resources out there online, right? I mean, we're on Google Hangouts, Google Glassdoor, Google, like, you know, what you're hearing from other people, and just kind of utilize all the tools that are out there. But like I said, Tracy, do you have any like words of wisdom, what works for you?
Yeah, I would say, you know, I mentioned earlier some of the things that we look for, and that's a key way to prepare for an interview. If you were an interviewer and you knew that someone was looking for flexibility and passion for technology, what are the questions that you would ask to get to those things? So prepare for those. I absolutely agree with Jen in terms of the concept of thinking through your past experiences that would fit in those questions, and don't hesitate to bring up past experiences that are not technology career related. So I'll tell you, one of the things that I absolutely love about Udacity is that the students are bringing all these different backgrounds and all these different experiences. At a company as large as AT&T, I need my workforce to really mimic our customer base, because I need people that are writing the software that is going to be used by a lot of different people with a lot of different backgrounds. And if my software doesn't work the way people need it to work and understand it, then it's not successful. So bringing your past experiences and different styles of thinking and all of that to work with you, to interview with you, those are key. It's one of the reasons why AT&T keeps coming back to Udacity, because we are finding this, I feel like, untapped pool of amazing resources that the rest of the world hasn't exactly figured out yet. Okay, some people have, but we are thinking we have hit the jackpot with this, you know, spring of amazing talent. So, you know, really don't hesitate to bring that to work with you every day.
That's amazing. That's encouraging. And I think you speak to something that's unique to Udacity students, in that our students come from all walks of life. Some are career changers, some are parents re-entering the workforce. And so I appreciate you saying that those different, bringing up those different experiences, even if it's not directly related, is helpful to get to know the candidate.
Absolutely.
All right, we're at the end of our live question, or our pre-selected questions, and it's time for our live questions. So students have been writing in the chat after hearing you both speak, and answering or asking some follow-up questions. So I'm going to jump right in. Our first question is, What if I am a strong front-end programmer, but not full stack yet? Do you hire front-end focused interns?
Focused, yes. So we do ask some questions in the interview, and there is a live coding. Jen talked about the assessment. There's also a live coding portion of the interview. What I will say about that is, even if you're successfully pseudocoding verbally, all the interviewers are very helpful, just like they are when you're working next to them. So, you know, even if you're not exactly 100% of the way there, you don't remember everything, you don't remember all the syntax, if you're talking through how you would do that, that's something that, you know, we're going to give you benefit of the doubt, right? If you're able to get that far.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah. I've gotten this from a few students already. Can you participate in the internship remotely?
So all of our job positions are in the 8 centers that I mentioned. So that, and part of that is because, as I mentioned, we want those internships to become full-time positions, and those full-time positions are also in those same 8 locations.
That makes sense. And I knew the answer, but I've just gotten it asked so many times, and I was like, we might as well clarify while we have you two. Can you give us an idea of the salary levels for the internships?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And there's no doubt about it. One thing about AT&T that you have probably found out is that we are transparent. We're very open. Our compensation team really thrives upon being fair and consistent. So there are 3 main factors that are reviewed for every single candidate. And I would say the first one is definitely level of education. So what I mean by that is that, of course, we have folks just like you all that are gaining their nano degree or have graduated with their nano degree. But some of you all have undergraduate degrees. Some of you have graduate degrees already from years past. So we have to take that into consideration. Some of you have technical graduate degrees, non-technical graduate degrees, undergrad degrees, all sorts of things. So first things first is we're going to look at your level of education. Secondly, we also look at just your overall experience. So we look at each and every candidate holistically. Tracy has said time and time again that, you know, we are not a cookie cutter type of company. We're going to look at all of your experiences, your professional experiences that you bring to the table. And then last but not least, you know, please bear in mind that it has to do with your location. Obviously, working in Atlanta, the cost of living is definitely going to be different versus in Middletown, New Jersey. So those are the 3 main factors that we look at. Now, the range, and I'm telling you guys, it's hard to, like, I'm not stalling to give you the range. I can definitely give you the range, but it varies so much between those 3 factors. So you're looking at anywhere from minimally, and I'll give it to you annually, 48,000, and then we go up to as far as like 67,000. And again, I know that's so broad, right? But it's because of those 3 factors. I mean, it's really, you know, we take everything into account, but I can assure you again, how we do apply our compensation guidelines is consistent with every hire.
That's helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Would you recommend I apply even if I'm only halfway through my Android developer nano degree?
Yeah, good question. Absolutely. The fact is that if you, and I want to make sure, and Tracy, you may have to keep me straight on this. Sometimes I trip up when I'm trying to verbalize this. If you are currently enrolled and as long as your expected graduation is by your start date, we're good. So no time like the present. So in other words, like, let's say if you apply today, right? I'll give an example. Let's say if you apply today, but you actually are not going to receive your degree until March, then we're going to bring you sometime after that March date, because you must have your nano degree prior to start date.
Well, that's a good incentive to finish.
Absolutely.
You bet.
Absolutely. Yeah, I will add, Jen spoke earlier about that when we hire, which is January through August, beginning like early August of each year. So if you think you are, not prepared for the interview yet and would do a whole lot better if you did go ahead and finish that interview, then you might wait a month or something of that nature. I wouldn't wait too incredibly long, right? Because then you start getting out. If you're telling me that 6 months from now is when you're going to graduate, I probably wouldn't wait all the way out to there, because then you're really getting out close to that August end date. So
yes,
so I would,
you guys,
probably, yeah.
Saying, this talent competition is stiff. It's true. You guys are amazing. So we definitely have a lot of interest in years past and a lot of great talent. So, yep, competition is great.
So in terms of applying earlier rather than later, is there a limited amount of internship opportunities available in each location?
So it's not necessarily by location, right? It's more based on my budget. When I run out of budget, I have to stop hiring. But so far, we have not hit any year where that happened. So we have been full throttle on Udacity Nano degree interns for as long as we've been doing this.
Yes, fingers crossed.
Yeah. Yeah. I keep looking for ways to make your funnel bigger, not to limit my hiring. So,
yeah.
Oh, well, that's great. I have an interesting question. Can you apply if you are currently an AT&T employee?
So yeah, actually, yes, we have immediately right now a number of job requisitions that are open for what we call skill pivoters. So if you're an internal AT&T employee and you are enrolled in a nano degree program, you can apply. Again, as Jen said, you do have to complete your nano degree program before you can start work, but you can apply. And if you're an AT&T employee, then you know how to get a hold of me if I give you my ATT UID, which is T as in Thomas, K as in Kilo 7749. And I'll be happy to give you those job rec numbers so you can apply.
That was AT&T language that nobody else knew.
Super secret, yeah.
I have another good question. Are the full-time positions only available at the same location as the internship?
Yeah. Yes, they are.
Okay, good to know. Students on F1 visas I'm reading this live. So can students on F1 visas apply for the program?
I think that's a really good question as well. Currently, now I have to tell you, speaking of internal jargon and internal information, there's kind of an internal joke, and it's a good one though, that AT&T stands for at this time, because we are such an ever-changing, innovative company. But at this time, we do not sponsor anyone, nor can they sponsor themselves. Like I've had other people say to me, oh, I can do this myself, or my education institution. Right now, we do not allow that type of sponsorship for this particular position, but that could change down the road. And I will add, I know this is a totally separate topic, but by all means, go to att.jobs, and there are other opportunities that do allow F1 visa status, such as our labs internship, and that's labs internship is out of like Plano and Palo Alto, and so there's definitely other opportunities that do allow sponsorship. But like I said, at this time, and I'm air quoting that, we do not. But that that could change down the road.
Perfect. I like that AT&T stands for at this time. Next question, any advice on what we can do to our resume slash Udacity application to help stand out? Without a solid job description, it's a little difficult to tailor my resume.
Yeah, totally understand that. So there is a job description out on, Jen, is it out on there's a Udacity nanodegree page on the att.jobs site. So if you go out there and look on att.jobs and search for Udacity, there is a whole page of stuff out there. But generally speaking, my recommendation is to cater your resume to the job description that you're applying for, because nowadays all of this stuff is done by computer. So it's based on the percentage match of the language that you're choosing. So you're already thinking in the right way when you're asking that question. So that's awesome. I would also add that, you've heard the statistic that the average resume gets 6 seconds of viewing time. So the biggest bang for your buck, the thing that is needed in the market right now, is the technology skills that you are earning. So the very first thing right after your name and address line on that resume should be those technical skills that you're earning, because that's what gets the first glance. And if you get that, then your resume gets more than that 6 seconds average, because you've got the stuff that people are looking for.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, Tracy. And the only other item that I would add is that, and this is something that Tracy's mentioned, and we've been talking about this, but what's very important to know is the recruiters look at all that, just what Tracy said, but also we're looking at your leadership skills. So we, believe it or not, want to see any volunteer work you've done. I mean, we have a legacy for serving others, serving the community. We want to see that volunteerism. We want to see any student clubs or organizations you've been a part of. We want to see if you've been part of the Girl Scouts or Boy Scouts of America, military. We want to see that. So we definitely want you to showcase any items or experiences that are going to showcase your leadership skills.
Kind of on a similar note, this student is over 50 and wants to know if you have any age restrictions, which I imagine formally you don't have an age cap, but maybe.
No.
Yeah, in fact, I will give you an example. We actually have in our program, in the full-time program today, a woman who received her doctorate in computer science before the internet. And she left the workforce. This is one of my favorite stories. I adore her. She got out of the workforce for a number of years to raise her family. She did volunteer work. She wrote websites and stuff to stay abreast of changing technologies while they were, while her kids were growing up. And then she took a Udacity Nano degree and she started working for AT&T in January. So absolutely no age restriction.
That's a pretty incredible story. That's a really good example.
That's just one of the stories. We have many others, honestly, all different types of scenarios, but no, definitely no discrimination.
That's great. I'm sure our students will be encouraged by that. We have time for a few more questions, 5 more minutes, and then I'll hop over to our call to action for this webinar. But I'm trying to make sure I'm finding a question you haven't already answered. So the salary ranges you shared, is that for the internship or is that also for the full-time employment if the intern gets converted to full-time?
Oh yeah, I was only focusing on internship. Yeah, really, really, really good question. I was only focusing on internship. Now, mind you, I should also caveat by saying that we constantly are reviewing our compensation guidelines. We want to stay competitive in the marketplace. There's a lot of market analysis being done benchmarking being done with other technology companies. This is something that, in all honesty, guys and gals, this could change. So what I'm telling you today, again, could, you know, at this time, AT&T, it could change. And I mean that in the positive way. So in other words, you know, we just see and always, you know, looking out for the candidate and being fair and what's integrable. You know, really, that's what we're all about. Now, for full-time, same exact factors are taken into consideration. Like I mentioned earlier, education, experience, and location. And again, I can't help but stress, like the range is really great from one location to another. We start out anywhere from like, for like, it just really depends. We can start anywhere from, for full-time, 83,000, and then we can work our way up from there. And then, you know, I will say this, I know I took a long pause there, but I'll also say too, without taking up too much time, our full-time permanent employees also are eligible for a company performance incentive that's given out annually. And then also they could be eligible for what's called an individual performance incentive. So there's a lot more to the compensation package than just the salary. We have two incentives. We have a sign-on bonus when you first start with us. Our benefits are unmatched. We have a comprehensive benefits package. So yeah, there's so much more that I can talk to you about, but at least that gives you a little bit of a taste.
I think we have a question similar in asking what the benefits are, and I assume they're asking about when you're a full-time employee. Does AT&T offer opportunities or incentives for its employees to pursue higher education, such as a master's?
Yeah, so that we have a tuition reimbursement program, and you do have to be here for 6 months before you can participate, and that's 6 months as a full-time employee. But after you are a full-time employee, we have tuition reimbursement of up to $8,000 per year. You have to be in a qualifying degree program, but we do have that, and that also enables you to take more Udacity Nano degrees if that's of interest. We have, in fact, we worked with Udacity in partnership with Georgia Tech to create a Master's of Computer Science that's delivered online. So there's lots of opportunities.
Yep, definitely support that continuous learner. As Tracy mentioned earlier, no doubt about it. That's what I love about the company. Honestly, I know we all have our own like hot buttons, what keeps us here, what keeps us happy. And that's what I love, is to be able to, you know, just learn more, whether it be professionally and personally.
Yeah, that's great. That's a really great benefit. And we have time for one last question. And this is specific to someone's situation right now, but I think can be applied to other situations. I'm pursuing a computer science degree and am a FEN graduate. Would I be able to work around my schedule, I'm assuming school schedule, or would I need to convert to full-time immediately after the internship?
So, oh, Tracy, I think you're on mute.
I am. Thanks, Jen.
Yeah.
So we have someone in our Dallas office that actually joined us as a Udacity Nano degree intern while he was pursuing a bachelor's in computer science. He was offered the opportunity to immediately convert to full-time, but he said, I want to complete my bachelor's, which completely flexible. What we did with him is we offered him a part-time gig from the time, you know, at the end of the summer. When he was going back to school, he took a part-time opportunity, we call it as a co-op, and he worked part-time until his graduation, and then we converted him to full-time as soon as he graduated. So we can do things like that. We have at this moment 29 part-time opportunities that are open as well. So we've got room to do a lot of things of that nature.
Yes, where there's a will, there's a way. We will do anything for top talent.
What it sounds like is AT&T is very flexible, which is amazing. I think, again, our students are coming from lots of different walks of life and different life experiences. So that's exactly the kind of opportunities I think our students need. Well, thank you so much for answering live questions and our pre-selected questions. I'm going to jump into what the next steps are. And if you guys want to weigh in at any point, feel free, but just want to make sure everyone knows the next step and call to action. Let me start presenting my screen. There we go. All right, so the first step is to update your Udacity profile. You all career-ready nano degrees have access to a Udacity profile that companies can access. Make sure to turn your recruiter access on so that AT&T can see your profile. Otherwise, they won't see your information. Next, you want to make sure your resume, LinkedIn, and GitHub profiles are all updated. Include all of your nano degree projects in your GitHub. AT&T is looking, and you guys can attest to this, to make sure your projects are in there and your information is up to date. So you really want to make sure your resume, LinkedIn, and GitHub have all of your projects and all of the information you want to share when you're applying. Also, you should all, if you're in Fend, Android, or mobile web, you should all have access to some incredible career projects in your classroom, including a review of all three of those, GitHub, LinkedIn, and resume. So you want to utilize those. They're a really great resource. Next, you can express interest in this opportunity, which I think some of you already have, but we have an application that you can fill out by 12 p.m. on Friday. Make sure to have that into us. That just indicates your interest and what location you would be interested in as well. And we'll be adding the link to the application in both, it's in the description now to the webinar. We'll send up a follow-up email. And we will also share the link in the chat as well. So you should have the link. And then AT&T will review and contact top candidates. AT&T will review your initial application and pick the top candidates to move forward. We want to see you succeed here at Udacity, so we will be here to help you through the process if you are chosen. Did I get everything? Jen and Tracy, anything I'm missing on next steps?
Oh, no, not at all. But I will add very, very quickly that keep in mind, obviously, we're heading into the end of the year. We're heading into holidays, you know, wrapping up, retrospectives. So there's no doubt about it that once, if I can set a time, like some expectations, that once you do show interest, and then we actually have you apply, you know, it can take a couple of weeks. So just bear with us. We will be in full swing come first of the year.
That's helpful. Thank you so much, Jen. Well, thank you all for joining this afternoon. Again, thanks for sticking with us at the beginning of the webinar. We really appreciate it. And thank you so much, Jennifer and Tracy, for taking time out of your afternoon to answer our questions. You can find Oh, great. You can find the recorded version of this webinar at the same link that you're at now. And we will be sending a follow-up email with the link to the application. So make sure to keep an eye on your inbox for that. But have a
fantastic. Thank you so much for having us. And everyone, just thank you for hanging in there. Like Kelsey said, technical difficulties is just the norm. And when you're trying to get all three people on at the same time from different locations, you know how that is. So thank you all so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. And please, we hope you consider AT&T as your employer of choice.
All right. Have a great afternoon.